There are few variables related to the learners which can affect the effectiveness of communication in the classroom. Here you see the prerequisite knowledge which a student must bring to the class to understand the message which is being delivered. And many a times the teachers come across a situation where students have inadequate knowledge with respect to the fundamental concepts and principles which are required to learn the given subject, or they have misconceptions about those concepts and principles. So, if the prerequisite knowledge is adequate, the teacher can deliver the message, ensure the maximum learning on the part of the learners, and it will be very easy for the students to understand the new information and relate it to what they already know and construct knowledge for themselves. But if that is lacking, maybe the effectiveness of communication is adversely affected. So the students will not be able to achieve the learning outcomes. In addition to that, the motivation or the interest which a student brings to the classroom. The students who are intrinsically motivated, they'll participate in the classroom and will maximize their learning. But a student who has low motivation needs to be provided external motivation by the teacher by bringing stimulus variation, by recognizing the effort put on by the students, by pat on the back, by providing successful experience, etc. Likewise, the interest. Some people are highly interested in what activities you take up in the class. Others may have a very low interest in those activities. So, if a teacher, while selecting exercises, tasks, etc., takes into account the interest level of the learners and try to maximize the utilization of the interest level, that means select task, exercise as per the interest of the students, then the participation rate will be very high and the communication effectiveness will be there. In addition, aptitude of the learners makes a difference in the classroom communication. If the students possess the aptitude to learn a particular subject, that is, some people have mechanical aptitude, others don't have. Some people have verbal aptitude, others don't have. Some people are high on the aptitude, others are just average or below average. Now, if you know who are the people who can excel in this particular subject with little training, then while grouping the students, you can utilize all these variables, maybe motivation, interest, aptitude, and previous knowledge. You can classify students and group them in such a manner that each group consists of people who have diverse level of aptitude, interest, motivation, or previous knowledge. You can maximize learning among others, and you can motivate others to participate in the classroom activities. Likewise, learning styles. The students, a study has been conducted at this institute where we found that most of our students who are pursuing their masters in engineering, they have preferred learning style of visual learning. So they prefer visuals rather than the verbal text. So this gives an indication to the teacher who is teaching masters that I must have more of visuals, less of verbal text to teach the student. So take assessment of the learning styles of student and use appropriate approaches to cater to the individual differences that exist within the class, and this is going to improve the effectiveness of communication. The teacher's self-concept makes a difference. Likewise, the student's self-concept also makes a difference. If students have realistic self-concept, they'll be more amenable to change, they'll be more receptive in the class. But if they have a very unrealistic self concept, maybe they become more arrogant, dominant, or on the other hand, if they are very unrealistic, that is, they think they can't do anything, that is the self concept, they don't have any ability or capability, maybe they become passive in the classroom situation. So classroom communication gets affected by the self concept which is possessed by the students themselves. Another major factor which can determine the effectiveness of communication is instructional methods and the media. And the teacher needs to ensure that whatever method and media they select, it needs to be appropriate and relevant to the learning outcomes, to the level of the learners, and to the content matter which is being taught. Because each method has its own distinct characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages, those need to be taken into account. If the content is amenable to group discussion can be an effective approach to deal with the content. Likewise, media may be more appropriate for achieving a particular learning outcome and may not be appropriate for achieving another learning outcome. I'm dealing with, say, factual information. The factual information maybe I'm able to provide with the help of the print material. But say, for example, I'm dealing with a manufacturing process and it takes about 4 to 5 hours in the industry to complete the manufacturing process. Maybe the video film within 20 to 25 minutes I'm able to give that whole process and show that or demonstrate that whole process to the students. That communication becomes more effective in the classroom situation. The teacher also needs to ensure that there are individual differences in the class. So while communicating in the classroom, one particular method or media may not be appropriate for all the students. So variety of approaches need to be used in the class to remain effective. One must also ensure that the medium which is being used, say for example the PowerPoint, one needs to be very sure of the size of the font, the color of the font, the color of the background and the foreground, where the visual is placed in the slide, how quickly the slides are transferred so that the student is given the time to comprehend the material written on a particular slide. All these things need to be taken into consideration to ensure that quality medium is integrated into teaching learning process. Now, the point is, many of us as teachers make use of the medium and that is used in isolation of what is being done in the class. So effectiveness of communication will be there when medium is integrated into teaching learning process. I was referring to a video film on manufacturing process. Now the question is, can I show the video film and forget about it? Or I say the manufacturing process, now you have a look at the video film and my job is over? No. If I want to remain effective in classroom, maybe I have a set of questions which are given to the students, and when they view the video, they try to find answer to those questions. At the end of the video, I have a small discussion in the class on the stages in the process, that is manufacturing process. I try to involve my learners to elaborate, then supplement that information if there are any gaps. So integration of media has to be ensured to remain effective in classroom communication. The last variable or the factor that can affect the communication in classroom is the learning environment that is created. And here, one must ensure that the class size itself is one of the variable which can either adversely affect or positively affect the communication. If you have a teacher student ratio which is 1 is to 30, I think you can optimize the learning. You remain effective because you can pay attention to each and every student in the class. But if the class size is 1 is to 80 or 1 is to 120, the classroom communication is adversely affected because no teacher can cater to the needs of each of those 120 students in the class. Another is the seating arrangement which is available. If you have a jam-packed classroom, you may not be able to move when you have assigned tasks and exercises to your students. The students are not able to view the teacher incomplete or the PowerPoint incomplete if the seating arrangement is messy. Must have proper seating arrangement in the class. And if you are going to have the group discussion, a circular kind of seating arrangement is which is to be preferred. In addition to that, if you are able to establish rapport with your students, the students will be freely participating in the classroom, and to that extent, the classroom communication would be effective. The students will be able to provide the necessary feedback to the teacher, and thus communication will be effective, and teacher will have the opportunity to adapt his subsequent messages as per the feedback of the students. Another consideration is whether you create an environment of cooperation or you create an environment of competition in your class. This is an era where we need to create an environment where students try to cooperate, collaborate with each other rather than compete with each other. Because when they go to the world of work, they will be required to work in teams and collaborate with others in achieving the targets. And that training starts from the classroom itself. So create opportunities where you can divide the whole class into small groups, and those groups work as team to accomplish the task. So if you create that kind of environment, communication among the students will be very good. Opportunities for feedback when provided to the students, that will enable the teacher to cater to the needs of students and adapt the subsequent messages to the requirement of the students. Likewise, opportunity for experimentation need to be provided in the classrooms. Now, this will give leverage to the creativity on the part of the students and would also take away any fears or apprehension that exist within the learners. So, try to create an environment where they can experiment with new ideas, new techniques, new approaches, etc., and you will become more effective. The teacher needs to provide reinforcement to the students to encourage that they exhibit the desired behavior again in the classroom situation. For example, classroom communication, when you pose a question and there is a reply coming from the student, and if that reply is correct, accurate, the teacher must appreciate the correct response, give pat on the back or give a smile to the student, acknowledge the desired behavior on the part of the student. So this will motivate the learner to exhibit the same behavior in further situations, and this will create an open communication environment in the class. If you don't recognize, you don't appreciate, then student may not like to participate in the classroom activities because they think the teacher doesn't care for the response given by them. So these are multiplicity of factors that can affect the effectiveness of classroom communication. A teacher thus needs to take into account all teacher student message, instructional method, and media related factors and create a conducive environment in the class where there is open communication and the teacher remains motivated to communicate to the student and student remain motivated to participate in the classroom activities. The greater the interaction between the teacher and the students and among the students, the higher will be the effectiveness of classroom communication. Thank you.